It's time for Watch and Learn, the show where we discuss the life lessons we learn from the movies we watch. Today, The Equalizer Parts 1 and 2. Hey, movie maniacs! My name is Sky, and I'm here once again with my brother Dusty. What's up?
Hey, from that iconic, oh no, how does that in Ant-Man 2 where he says, hey, you remember that commercial, that really good commercial, what's that? Maybe I did it wrong. What's that?
Yeah, exactly. I should have used it last time when we talked about Ant-Man, but oh well, better late than never.
Yeah, I'm doing great. How are you doing, buddy?
Oh, very good, thank you. Yeah, lovely day. Me and the boys went swimming, just got back in time to record this pod with you.
Nice. Yeah, I actually, looking at Equalizer 1 and 2, it got me like a hankering to go shoot some guns. So I went to the shooting range and I actually went and shot my rifle. I like to hunt, so I'm going to, I had to zero in my rifle and make sure that I'm shooting well, and got my other couple guns and was shooting. But anyways, I was like, man, I got to shoot. But what I was realizing that in Equalizer 1, I don't think he uses a gun at all in Equalizer 1. In Equalizer 2, I think he maybe uses it just to kind of like distract the bad guy for a little bit, but he kills everybody without guns. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. Just like in Skyscraper, how Will Sawyer's character, The Rock, didn't use a gun the entire time. In this one, Robert McCall doesn't either. But he does kill two different guys with the gun, but it's with their own gun with their fingers on the trigger.
Yeah, super, super cool. And I love the way that he scouts the room and everything that's inside the room and all the people and everything, and then realizes how he can actually kill. And we'll talk all about that. Like, that's part of my, lessons and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, just a great movie. Really, really fun. It wasn't as like a Arnold Schwarzenegger movie back in the 90s, like Commando or something. Like, it wasn't like a shoot 'em up and, the good guy never gets hurt or anything like that. In this movie, these two movies, he actually gets hurt, but at the same time, like, he's always in control, which is just super cool to watch.
Totally, me too.
Hey, so last week, you actually surprised me with that little game show where you talked about the plot keywords from previous movies that totally threw me off. And I, more than likely, if we did it again, I'd probably suck again because for some reason they just didn't come to my head. So I wanted to pick a few movies out and see how well you did. So I'm going to flip it on you.
Cool, let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay, so here's your first one. Slapstick comedy.
Dumb and Dumber.
You suck. How did you
really?
get that? Yes, it is. Oh, man.
Okay, at the end, I'm going to tell you how I figured that out.
Oh, you probably already looked at all these because you
No, I didn't. I'll tell you at the end when we're done with these movies.
All right. Okay.
I guess the first one.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know me. I love Dumb and Dumber, so any slapstick. Okay, next one. Surprise ending.
Sixth Sense?
No. Fighting.
Okay, keep going.
Dark humor. Anti-establishment. This next one should give it away. Multiple personality disorder.
Me, Myself, and Irene?
No. Alter ego.
The one with James McAvoy?
No.
Gosh darn it.
Group therapy. Oh, I'll give you one. It has Meatloaf in it.
Oh, Fight Club?
Fight Club.
Oh my gosh.
There you go.
Okay, I guess dark humor makes sense. I don't think of it at all as a funny movie.
There are some funny parts, like when they're getting the fat from the cellulite clinic or whatever, and they're throwing it over, and it catches on the fence, and all the fat dumps on his head. Things like that. It's actually pretty good. Mm-hmm. Okay, another one for you. Treasure Hunt.
National Security. Goonies.
Good job.
Okay.
Yeah, because there aren't so many treasure hunt movies that are really iconic.
No.
Okay, last one, since you're really good at this. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Teenager.
Teen Wolf.
Paint.
Okay, keep going.
Training.
Oh, Karate Kid?
Karate Kid. Good job.
Okay, good.
There were other ones, like a keyword was karate. I was like, oh, that's not going to work. That's part of the name.
You can't say karate. You can't say a part of the title in the keyword thing, you know?
Bonsai was another one.
Oh, you could have said martial arts, though.
Martial arts, yeah. Bully, bonsai tree, yeah. Shower curtain, things like that.
Yeah.
So how did you get the answer so quickly?
Well, I just figured I know you and what kind of movies you might be looking for as you're just going through IMDb searching for movies and then looking through keywords. So I just kind of figured movies that you're all about. What I was going to say was, if you wanted to really stump me, you should have your wife Melissa pick out 5 or 6 movies. Because that would totally throw me for a loop.
Like ones like Anna Green Gables. You would not. Honestly, she would pick that one, and you would not get it.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to know your audience, when you're doing this kind of stuff. And if you want to stump me, have her pick them.
There you go.
Guaranteed. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get to the Equalizer. Last week you had chosen Equalizer 2, but seeing as how you have, or at the time you hadn't watched part 1 yet, I figured we might as well talk about them both.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah, so part 1, it was pretty good. The critics, Rotten Tomatoes, only gave it a 60% for part 1, but the audience gave it a 76. And that feels about right to me, right around that 75th percentile or so for this movie. What do you think about those scores?
I think the scores, I lean more towards the audience. It wasn't like a groundbreaking movie, but it was fully entertaining. I would probably give it... I liked it more than Skyscraper personally, because we just talked about it last week, and I gave Skyscraper, I think it was like a 68 or something like that. I would give the Equalizer 1 probably like a 79, maybe even an 80, something that would like, oh yeah, I'd want to watch it again, because Denzel Washington, his performance on that was just super cool. I really enjoyed it.
I agree with you. I'm right there on 80. And then part 2, I know we'll talk about part 2 in a little bit, but might as well just get the scores out of the way. I would give part 2 a 60.
Really? What? Sorry. Did you say what you would give part 1?
Yeah, part 1 I'd give it an 80, and then part 2 60.
Oh, got it. So 80 for part 1, and part 2 was 60. Man, you didn't like part 2 that much, huh?
Well, I still liked it. If you're a fan of the first, I would recommend to see the second. And if you like action movies in general, where good guys are taking on the bad guys, killing guys that deserve to be killed, or beating up guys that totally deserve to be beaten up, this is a good movie. It's just, this one basically did the same things as part 1, I felt.
It definitely did same things as part 1. Now, I would give part 2, since I give part 1 like a 78, 79, I would give part 2, even though I enjoyed it, I was so irritated that his best friend, or his friend, was the bad guy. I was like, he's actually doing a good job making, like, I thought he was actually going to be a friend, because it obviously in Skyscraper, it's easily, it was screaming that he was the bad guy. But in this Equalizer Part 2, it didn't come across that way at all. Or at least they did a good job of portraying it better, to where he wasn't a bad guy. But in the back of my mind, as soon as I knew it was his friend. He was running, and Denzel Washington's character is sitting on the bench, and he sees him. I'm like, oh, please don't be the bad guy.
Exactly.
I just in my brain. But then all of a sudden, obviously these are spoilers, so hey, warning! I just gave a spoiler away. The main bad guy is his friend. So that in total of figuring out what type of score I'm going to get with that, as well as Equalizer 1, I don't think it eclipsed Equalizer 1. So I honestly would give it like a 65, 66%. It's definitely lower. I didn't have as much fun in the second one as the first one. The first one was really entertaining. The second one was good, but at the same time, it just seemed like it was the same thing over again.
Yep. 100% it was. Well, getting back to part 1, I liked how it started off with a quote from Mark Twain. The quote was, "The 2 most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why." So my question to you is, why was he born?
Yeah. So why he was born was to do things that other people can't. It could be taking out bad guys, or helping the downtrodden, or something like that, and getting retribution for people. And so I don't know exactly when it was he realized what he was born. It could be at the time, he made the decision to tell his wife, I promise to never do this again. And then the course of Equalizer 1, he realizes, I'm going to make an exception for you. I realize who I am, and this is what I do.
I gotcha. Yeah, I think it was during the course of part 1, where he learned why he was born. It was basically to help the weak, those who are fighting against injustice or can't take care of things for themselves. That's what he learned, because in the first one, it seems pretty apparent that he started off as a CIA hitman or some kind of role where he just killed bad guys that the government told him to go after, right? So he's helping his country, doing a good thing, but as we saw in part 2, he kind of regrets a lot of that. Well, in part 1, he was trying to live a quiet life, trying to get away from that old thing, but then things brought him back into that fold of killing people, but he was doing it for a different reason now, more for helping people who couldn't help themselves. And I think that's his why.
Yeah. Yeah, helping people that can't help themselves, especially in part 1. I think he really finds that when the girl that was inside the cafe finds out that, hey, she's actually missing, he realizes he can do something about it, so he's going to.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was Terry, the character, and she was played by Chloe Grace Moritz, who I love. Chloe, she's such a great actress. Did you ever see the Kick-Ass movies?
No, I did not.
Oh, she is amazing. She plays Hit Girl in those, and I highly recommend that you check them out. Tons of action, way over the top, crazy, unbelievable stuff, but super fun movies. She plays
what? What's her name? Hit Girl?
Hit Girl.
Oh.
Hit Girl.
Okay.
Yeah, that's her character's name. But Antoine Fuqua directed both movies, and I think he does a great job. He's been a long-time action director and stuff. And I really like his stuff, and I like how he's able to build tension throughout the movie. Like in this first part, you get to meet Robert McCall, and he goes off at 2 a.m. to this diner, and he meets this girl, Terry, and talks to her, and she obviously has to leave. So you see, there's going to be something between the two of them. The next night he goes again, and you see her getting into a car with a pig, as she calls him. The next night she avoids the call, and then she gets picked up and hit out on the street, And then the next night she's not even there. The next night she's beat up in the ICU. So there's like this building of tension in each of those scenes between Robert and her that something big is coming.
Absolutely. And we don't know really anything about Robert McCall and his past experience or anything like that. And so, yeah, it's really cool because, in part 2, you start watching with the understanding of part 1, and you understand how awesome of a dude this guy is. I mean, how he could just control any room and kill anybody in there. And so part 2, you go in there expecting him to just, clean up. In part 1, I had no clue exactly what he's capable of until he goes into that room, the Russian mob bosses of the area, goes in there and just really cleans up the room and doesn't even have a firearm. Like he goes in and takes everybody out. And so then you get a picture of wow, this guy is a bad dude. And, he could take out anybody at any time. And then you see throughout the rest of the movie, and it progresses even more and more so, how he really can. He's always in control of everything, always plans everything out really well. And part 2, exact same thing. He's really methodical, really well thought out, and then can actually act through everything that he wants to get done.
Totally. And I like what you said about him planning things out. And he does do a lot of planning. He knows what he's doing. But I also like his, improvising in the moment. Like you had said at the beginning, when he goes into a scene, you look through his eyes and he's game planning the situation. He didn't come in with a weapon. He probably knew that he was going to get into a fight with a bunch of Russians because obviously these guys are all about money. Your $9,800 isn't going to buy her freedom, right?
Yeah.
He knows that it's just going to piss him off and it's going to cause a fight. But he didn't go in there with a weapon, like you said. And so I just love his game planning. He's looking around. He sees the cork. He sees the knife. He knows what he's going to do to resolve the situation. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. And going from the first one into the second one, seeing him even get more so in control. I mean, the first one you can see he's in control. But number 2, he actually has people that actually know him, that he fought with and were close to him. Like he was in control and he already had a plan. He already knew where he was going to go, the island and all that sort of stuff, and already had everything planned out. Yeah, it was great watching especially I just appreciate Denzel, how he actually plays the character. Man, it was great.
Yeah, 100%. Denzel was a killer actor in this one. Speaking of just another great actor in general, what did you think about when we saw Bill Pullman, right? The first thing I thought is, oh crap, Bill Pullman's in this movie. He's got to be a bad guy.
Who's Bill Pullman? I don't know who you're talking about.
He was Susan's husband? He's the president from Independence Day?
Yes. You thought he was a bad guy? I guess I never...
No.
Oh.
I didn't think he was. As soon as I saw him on the screen, I thought, oh crap, he's a bad guy.
Oh. And he had a very small part, in both of them. It seems rather small for, he's a pretty famous actor, at least pretty well known, but it was a very small part.
Yeah, and that's what surprised me. I think like how you had said, with Pedro Pascal, like you had said, oh man, I hope he's going to be good, but you just have that sense that he's going to be bad. Same thing with Bill Pullman, and I think they kind of pull the rug out from under you. You think he's going to be bad because he's giving these kind of weird little glances toward them as they're talking, and so they're making you think he's going to be bad. Whereas part two, Pedro, or Dave's character, or the character of Dave, they make you think he's going to be good the whole time.
That's very true. I remember The Simpsons had one episode where you had the dog with the shifty eyes, and you always know he's the bad guy. And at the very end of the episode, it pans to the dog, close up of his face and his shifty eyes. And yeah, you would think, and so it was interesting having him, actually, both Dave, the character of Dave, and Bill Pullman. So having them, and, Bill Pullman's part was rather small, but he did really well. But yeah, I could see where you're going with that. I honestly did not think that he was a bad guy at all. Like, for some reason, like, that never got in my head.
Gotcha. One of the things that occurred to me with this movie as I was watching it, if aliens came to Earth, right, and they wanted to learn about the human race through movies, this is not one that I would like to show them because it's not a shining example of what humans are capable of. I mean, you've got this seemingly nice guy, Robert McCall, just going about his life, and then in 3 different instances in this first movie, he encounters bad guys that need to be taken care of, right? So it's just crazy. Like, if an alien watched this movie, they would assume that that Earth is just the craziest place full of bad people wanting to do bad things, and people that can't take care of themselves, and other people who take care of it by killing the bad guy.
I never actually put that thought into my mind, having aliens watch us through movies. But it makes a good point, because as I'm looking at the movie, it actually is, actually take that back. What's a little different from what you were saying, it looks like at the beginning of part 1, it is the circumstance, it just happens that there was the call girl or the hooker, and she, has the bad guy, and she goes after him, and, then there's a hold up. I actually reminded me, I thought, hey, I remember Skye got held up by gunpoint at her dad's liquor store. You remember that?
Of course I remember that.
Yeah, of course you remember that. I mean, that would freak me out. I mean, I was like, anyways, you got held up by gunpoint. And so those are 2 instances where they happened on him, and it wasn't something that was extraordinary, like out of the norm. It happens. But everything outside of that, with the bad guys, the Russian mobs coming in, like, that was because of what he did one time, and then it perpetuated down. Part 2, even same thing. It's because of his past that brought him to where he was with his old teammates going after him, trying to kill him. Anyways, all that to say, it didn't seem like to me that bad things just kept following him, but I could be completely wrong.
It just felt like it to me.
Yeah. I guess I kind of rained on your parade, like a wet blanket on your point there.
No, that's okay. That's fine. Yeah. I mean, everybody's, we all see different things in the various movies that we watch, Yeah,
I loved the scene where he goes and gets Miles out of the gangster crib, they would call it, and gets him out, and he just walks in there, just takes names, and how did well, it wasn't Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh yeah, it was at Avengers Infinity War, where Mantis says taking names and taking ass and kicking names or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, I butchered that. Sorry guys. So anyways, he goes into their crib and just says, "Come on, Miles, let's go." Who are you? I'm your dad. Your mom never told you about. Come on, Miles. And he goes in there just like doesn't even care about himself, and goes in there and really just so intimidating. Like, if I saw a dude come in like that, like if I was one of the guys sitting there, obviously I'd be ticked off. Like, who does this guy think he is and stuff like that. But man, for somebody to have that big of cojones to come in there and do that, that's a dude you might not want to mess with.
Nah, without a doubt. So I liked that scene that you're talking about, but at the same time, I thought that seems like the way you don't want to go about it, because you're approaching these guys in their own crib. You're taking out 3 or 4 of them in the hallway in the elevator ahead of time. You go in there with a gun to pull out a potential gang member. How are they going to go beyond this? Are they going to treat Miles with respect and leave him alone? Or are they going to come back at him, say, hey, where's that old dude? What's going on with that? I mean, it seems like he possibly created... Now, Miles was in a terrible situation in the first place just by being there. He put himself in a bad spot. But did Denzel actually make it worse by going there and rescuing him from them in their own home?
If movies have taught me anything, he made it worse. Because,
Yep.
like any gangster movie, like they have long memories. If they've been disrespected, if anything bad happened to them, they're going to get retribution on it. And so, yeah, every other movie I've ever seen that would be a bad thing to do.
100%, yeah. What is the, like, I thought about this. I assigned this movie a rewatchability factor of between 1 to 5, and I gave it a score of 2, really. I think the only reason I watched part 1 again is because you had selected, to watch part 2 for the podcast.
So part 1, that would be enjoyable for me to watch again. Number 2, it was with him fighting his old buddies and stuff. That was like where it derailed for me. I was like, oh, this has been done before. I'm not into it. It was okay. Don't get me wrong. But the storyline just wasn't nearly as good. The first one had a decent storyline and it held my attention. Like I said, even I didn't know it was 2 hours and 10 minutes. The time flew by. The second one, as soon as they showed that he was the bad guy, I was like, oh crap, this has all been done before. And that whole end fight scene was cool. It was really, really fun to watch. But it was just like, oh man, this has been done before. I was hoping for something, a little different storytelling.
Well, without a doubt. Yeah. So was there anything else before we really dive into part 2? Was there anything else from part 1 you wanted to discuss?
No, part 1 was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And everything about it wasn't Home Depot. What was that? The store that they worked at.
Home Mart.
Yeah. That was really, really cool. And what between part 1 and part 2, what you see the difference is part 1, he's working at a job. Part 2, he's working as like a sole proprietor driving for Lyft. So part 1, he's working around people that he gets to know that people can actually use against him. So it seems like in part 2, he realizes, hey, if you don't have anybody that you care about, they can't go after you and hurt them to get to you. And so part 1, it's actually, they use his friends and the people that he works with against him.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. I didn't see it that way, though. I figured that, in part 2, he obviously wants to help anonymously. He doesn't want anyone to know. He tells that kid to be quiet. Nobody knows who he is. In part 1, my guess is that he told Ralphie, that big guy that he was helping get in shape for the security guard training and stuff. He probably told him, hey, I helped everybody, but don't say a word. They don't need to know. And he just probably upped and quit, moved to a different part of town, and he never sees them again. Basically, for their safety and because he wants to remain anonymous.
Yeah, I could see that. But then again, in the second, he didn't get a job. Like, he didn't try to get a new job someplace else at a different, instead of what Home Mart, can't think of a different funny name for Lowe's, but, something like that. But
well, I think the reason why he didn't was at the end of the first movie, we saw him getting on Craigslist and putting out an ad for Are You in Need, right? He wanted to help people through Craigslist. And my thought at the end of the movie was, geez, is he really going to be helping people through Craigslist in part 2? That seems weird. But as soon as I saw that little Lyft symbol in part 2, I thought that was a perfect way, because you're constantly driving around, you're meeting a ton of people, you're hearing a lot of their stories, you're hearing their problems, and you're in a perfect opportunity to help them out kind of anonymously too. My guess is because he was CIA or some kind of intelligence agency, he knows how to create fake IDs, he can create fake Lyft driver accounts, and then he could just be anonymous, switch accounts, and always be just some random dude picking you up in a car who ends up helping you.
Definitely. And I did appreciate the storytelling in that. You could see that's why he did certain things, because he got that from driving and listening to stories and listening to issues that come up with. And so they told the story really well, how he's been helping people.
Yeah, totally. Oh, I loved when he went in there and kicked those young lawyers' asses. That scene was amazing.
That was terrific. And, obviously when they drop off the girl, you know something's going to happen. You know he's going to be taking care of business. And I'm just like, yay, this is so exciting. Oh, before we get, I wanted to bring up the trailers. Are you going to talk about the trailers anytime soon? Or at all?
Oh, sure. Yeah, let's talk about the trailers.
Okay, so the trailers, I went back and watched the trailers after. And like you and I have both decided to not watch trailers before we watch the movie, especially ones that we want to see, we know we're going to see. So I went back and watched the trailers. I saw so many spoilers in both 1 and 2. It's really sad.
I gotcha. Yeah, 1, there was a lot of spoilers. In part 2, I thought the biggest spoiler was the fact that his friend Susan died, but I didn't really feel they were spoiling too much in that because they didn't show you who the bad guys were. They told you that the bad guys have, training, killing, or training in killing and stuff. But other than that, I felt that the second trailer wasn't that bad.
Well, when he said, you killed my friend, or they killed my friend, and the only disappointment is I only get to kill you once. You killed my friend. He only has one friend. So if you watch part 1, you already know who's going to die, which was obviously rather sad. But then you watch the rest of the trailer, it shows him, shows her walking in a room and getting jumped. And it's like, oh crap, I know everything about it. So I know she's going to die. And so it's kind of, yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I kind of enjoyed this movie, because I didn't know she was going to die. I was genuinely bummed out when she got attacked.
I agree. I didn't know she was going to die either. And so I definitely didn't see that coming. I didn't see how she was going to die. The one thing it definitely did not give away was that his friend was the main bad guy. Like, you don't know, the other 4 guys were actually, they knew him and they were, worked together and all that sort of stuff. They're friends from work. But, you didn't know that the main bad guy was his close friend that's supposedly trying to help him. So that's one thing they didn't give away. But I mean, lots of other things. They gave away so much stuff.
Yeah, I gotcha. They kind of did. Yeah. I don't think it was as egregious as some of those Universal trailers for like Skyscraper and Fate of the Furious and stuff, though.
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't that bad. So back to part 2. I did like the opening scene of him on the train, and you could tell something was going to happen. As soon as he's looking around, or he's looking at the guy and, kind of eyeballing him and then looking at the girl and smiling at her, you just knew something was going to happen, and there was a reason why he was there. It's just really cool.
It was, and at first they said, the screen said they were in Turkey, and I thought, Turkey, does that mean he's back with the CIA traveling internationally doing assassinations?
I thought the same thing. So no, he's just on his own dime, but apparently he might be working with Susan somehow, getting funds or whatever he might need, because she is working with them, with the CIA, the agency they call it. But I thought it was really, really cool. But yeah, every single fight scene that he goes into, he doesn't use a firearm, and he uses what's around him. I just thought that everything was really, really cool about that.
Without a doubt, it was. I think it was in that scene. He says this quote. He says, there are 2 types of pain that hurts and pain that alters. And I really like that quote, because it basically says that you can be a victim or you can learn from your experiences and grow from them. I loved it.
Yeah. Now, okay, so you thought the alter was to grow from it, right?
Yeah.
I thought, actually, because he was saying it to a bad guy, I thought that he was saying in a negative way, like a bad way. Pain that alters is like pain that alters you so that you are no longer who you are, or your whole perception is completely off, or I alter you to where you can't walk anymore. Yeah, I was thinking down that road, not necessarily me growing from pain, but yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought, because the pain that hurts could be him inflicting pain and actually killing him and taking the girl. The other pain could be, okay, fine, I'll give you my daughter so that my wife is happy again, and now I'm the asshole that kidnapped my daughter. I accept full responsibility, and now my 3 friends died because of it too.
Yeah.
That's the way I took it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, I got to talk about the scene where Miles is painting the Mr. McCall's house, his room, painting it, and then the bad guys are coming, and McCall's talking to him on the phone, and he's like, "What? Okay, what? There's a bad guy. What?" He's like being all loud and everything, and I could see where he doesn't know the severity of the situation. He has no idea McCall is CIA, ex-CIA, and all that sort of stuff. But the communication, I was like, it worked out fine in the end, where he made it to the safe room and all that sort, the hidden room. But like McCall said, should have said something like, or I would think, "You're in danger. Stop talking and just listen. Somebody's going to be there and they're going to kill you. Stop talking." And anyways, but what I wanted to talk about was that safe room. That was super cool. I was actually thinking, I got to build something like that in my house. That would be awesome to have.
Without a doubt. Yeah, I have, as you know, I have a safe room. It's basically just our closet, and I fortified it. But it would be awesome to have a hidden niche in the room, in the house somewhere.
Yeah. The way you did have your closet where you have it, you could bar it and make sure that nobody can get in. All that stuff. That's really, really smart, especially for your wife and kids. I mean, having them be able to run in there, protect themselves, have a shotgun in there. You might need to put some waters and Gatorades or something like that just in case they need to sit in there for a little bit. But all that to say, what irritated me was, man, Miles should not have gotten up so quickly that, they just left. Let me exit the room now, or let me exit the place. And so I'm going to get it. It leads me into my Monday morning quarterback that I'm just going to jump into because I want to. But my Monday morning quarterback was Miles should have just taken a nap and don't get out of the paddock room for at least an hour. Stay in there. On top of that, when the bad guy's looking in the mirror, one-way mirrors are good, but unless there's light shining through, it's not going to be good. So literally move to the other room where he can't see you inside there. So two things. I like, Miles, come on, buddy. Number one, don't be in front of the mirror when he sees you. He's looking into it. Number two, take a nap in there. Just hang out until they're completely gone, at least an hour away.
100%. He might not, like you said, didn't understand the severity initially, but when you look through that mirror and you see a guy holding a gun with a silencer on it, you know that guy means business.
He is not going to be your friend. He's in there for bad things. You need to make sure you get out of the way of the mirror and you take a nap. But yeah, so that's my Monday morning quarterback. What's your Monday morning quarterback?
My Monday morning quarterback is that the character of Dave, he should have just killed McCall when he had a chance, because he knows that McCall is the most dangerous dude alive, right? Maybe when he was out jogging along the path, he didn't have a gun to kill him then. But from that day until McCall came back to his house later on, don't have a guy sitting in the car you should do it yourself. You should come up with a reason to meet McCall somewhere to discuss things with him and pull a gun then or something. I mean, why send some random dude in a car to kill him? You've got to do it yourself, because I guarantee out of him and those 4 guys, that McCall was the most dangerous out of them, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're going to see him as the most dangerous threat in the world. And if they're trying to eliminate the threats to their conspiracy or whatever it is, eliminating McCall should have been job number 1. All 4 of them, plus that dude with the knife that they hired in the car, all 5 of them should have been in on killing him at the same time.
Well, what would have been the easiest thing is when McCall doesn't see you coming. He doesn't know you're the bad guy. You're talking, hey, let's meet here because, I think somebody might be catching on. He still thinks you're your friend. You're his friend. And, you start talking, you just pull a gun and shoot him.
Yeah.
Just he's not expecting that at all. That's when you take him out. You don't send some random guy. And so as soon as he gets attacked in that car, his brain's thinking only one person in the world outside of the dead person, Susan, and her husband, who wouldn't try to kill me. Only other person I just told, and now I'm getting killed, is my friend Dave.
Yep. 100%. They gave it away, man. It was terrible. Bad move on their part, but it's good. It made for good movie fun, especially that final battle at the end, like you said, on that island that was the wind-swept, stormy island. I thought that was pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. So before we get to lessons learned, anything else from part 2 that you want to talk about?
No, I can't think of anything.
Sweet. So my first lesson was don't pick a fight with an unknown entity. And all of these guys, other than Dave and his team of bad guys, they're picking a fight with some guy who seems easy pickings, but they learn right away that getting involved with him is a detriment, and they're going to die from it.
Yeah, definitely. And, you and me, we don't want to fight ever. That's the last thing. But if it comes to us, we have to be able to be ready to defend ourselves. Thor Ragnarok. Thor quotes his dad saying, "A wise king never seeks out war, but is always ready when it, if it happens." Mm-hmm. And so same thing, you got to be ready. One thing though, in part 1, the main bad guy, the Russian bad guy that came in, I can't remember his name, but he had all the tattoos on himself.
Teddy.
He was super smart, saying McCall. He didn't know who it was, but the guy he's searching after who killed all these guys, like, this guy's a professional. I got to make sure that I know what I'm getting into. And so he tried to do as much homework as try as he might. Not, he didn't do well in killing him and succeeding, but he was smart. Everybody else, they're just like, oh, they're just going to jump right into this.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I liked how that guy Teddy was kind of like the wolf from Pulp Fiction,
Oh, he sure was. Clean up everything, yeah. So my first lesson is always be aware of your surroundings. So now, it could be, the corkscrew or, the glass bottle or whatever it might be. That's a good one to know what else you can use to kill somebody if you really need to. But just be aware of entrances and exits. Be aware of the people in the room. Be aware of always looking around to see what could be a threat. And I've gone through concealed carry permit lessons and training and things like that. And that's something they always try to stress is always being aware of your surroundings, because at any given point, you may need to defend yourself. And it obviously you don't want to. You'd rather have it and never have to need to use it. But you also need to be ready to defend yourself. Now, on top of that, let's say, and this is something with concealed carry, if most people are not like Robert McCall, and they don't have expert ways to kill people. So if you're carrying a gun, if you're doing a concealed carry, you also need to be aware what's your surroundings beyond your target. Let's say a bad guy's coming at you. You also need to understand what's behind your target, because if you shoot and you miss that guy and you hit a bystander, that's coming on you. You're going to actually get arrested for that, because even though you're trying to protect yourself, you're hitting something else. All that to say, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of what you can use, what you can't use, how to escape, how to protect your family, all that sort of stuff.
Totally. I love that life lesson. And the second part that you had said, be aware of not just the enemy in front of you, but those surrounding that. That was evidenced also by Robert McCall in the first one, when the guy came in to rob Home Mart. He was going to fight back. You saw that in his eyes. But then he saw the woman with the two kids walk directly in after them. You don't want to risk two kids' lives, not only their mother and anyone else in the store. So it made sense that he just said, hey, I'll give you the money, take her ring, and I'll figure out a way to get it back later.
Absolutely. Completely. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Sweet. My second lesson was something that Denzel Washington or Robert McCall had said to Ralphie. He said, progress, not perfection. And
oh, yeah.
That's great for life. I mean, that's what we should all strive for. Just be a little bit better every single day, a better employee, a better father, a better poker player for me, a better husband every single day. Don't just work to be better every day.
And if you think about it, if you just get 1% better every single day, compounding over time, you get drastically better, in a year or 2 years or whatever it might be. So yeah, definitely go for progress, not perfection. That's a great lesson.
Yep.
Number 2 for me is be who you are in this world. And a lot of times I hear somebody say, somebody's not comfortable in their skin, or they are comfortable in their skin. At first, when I heard it, I was like, what does that actually mean? Well, what I've come to understand what that means is they know who they are. They're not trying to change themselves. Obviously, they can be better. They want to strive for growth, and they want to strive for progress. But they know who they are, and they also know who they're not, and they're sticking to who they are. And that's what Robert McCall does. He knows who he is, and he's a CIA, that guy that just, kick names and take ass. And so he's able to do that. So that's who he is. And so for us, just be who you are. Don't be somebody else, and don't try to be somebody else that you're not, because in the end, you're really lying to yourself and ultimately lying to other people, but you're really lying to yourself, and it's harder on you. If you could just be who you are in this world, it's going to make it so much easier, and you'll be happier.
Absolutely. I like that lesson for sure. My third lesson is you can be a victim or learn from your painful experiences. And I had already talked about that with that quote that he said, there's 2 types of pain that hurts and pain that alters.
That's good.
Yep.
So my third one is always negotiate anything you have to pay for. And this was when he was talking with Miles. He was talking to Miles, and he said, hey, the guy down the street said he'd paint it for $650 or another company. And then Miles said, hey, I'll do it for $350 or whatever, how much price he was. And he didn't say yes to that. And then he came back and said, lower price. And then, for the room. Anyways, I'm a big person. I love negotiating prices. I love getting deals on things. My wife absolutely hates negotiating. If somebody says it's $10,000 for that, she'll be like, I'm either not going to pay it or I am going to pay it. She would not negotiate at all. So she married me, and I love to negotiate. So I always do all the negotiating. But in everything that I do, from my business with real estate and rental properties to buying a car to buying a house, whatever it might be, I always negotiate every single thing from beginning to end, and try to make sure I get the best the best product for my money and not overspend. But yeah, always negotiate everything you have to pay for.
Ah, I gotcha. I'm like your wife. I hate that. The sticker price is the price I pay. That's what I normally do.
Oh, I don't, man. You know, okay. I would encourage you at least just ask one time. Just say, hey, are you flexible on that price? If you just say that one thing, are you flexible on that price? They'll either say no, which you're already paying the same amount that you were already going to pay, or yes, and they might come down 5%, 10%. If you just say that one line, don't say, hey, can you come down? Just say, are you flexible on that price? Is a quick lesson for you, or a quick tip for you. Are you flexible on that price?
Adam Carolla in a recent podcast talked about how countries where haggling is a big part of the culture are much less well off than us. Like, have you ever heard of people in Japan haggling? Or Americans really haggling much, or Canadians haggling? No. People back east, the Middle East, they do a lot of haggling.
I don't agree with that premise. I think it also comes with the Western culture and the capitalism and freedom and stuff like that. But I could be, I differ from what Adam Carolla says.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yep. My final lesson is something that the character of Sam said. He said, always be nice to anyone that has access to your toothbrush.
That is awesome. I loved that. That was a great lesson.
I thought so too.
So my last lesson was, if you can do something about it, do something about it, whatever the situation. Do something about it because you can. If you have the means to help somebody, then do it because you can. If you have the means to make sure something bad doesn't happen or fixing a problem, do it because you can.
Absolutely. That relates to something when I was a manager at a restaurant. I would often tell my employees, if you see a problem, you own it. So if you know that table 94, needs water, but their server is off busy, go grab the water pitcher and fill it. You see that table 93 needs their plates clean and their server or their busser's busy. Grab the plates and take them out for them,
That's a great point. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, any last lessons or anything about parts 1 or 2 you want to talk about?
No, but I do have a movie prop that I want.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So the movie prop that I want, there's actually 2. I'd be fine with either one. So the first one is his watch. I mean, that's really iconic, is his watch from part 1 and part 2. He times it. When you see him first go after the bad guys, he says 16 seconds. At first you're like, I think he means that's how long it's going to take him to destroy these guys. But you realize after he's done, that is what he meant. It took him like 19 seconds, so he was kind of, a little disappointed. It took him a little longer than he wanted. But, so the watch was super cool. But the other one would be the book, Old Man and the Sea. That would be really cool to have and put that on my shelf as, hey, this was the book from Equalizer 1, Old Man and the Sea.
Gotcha. Yeah, what I was thinking was a book also was the second book he was reading, Don Quixote.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the one about, and one of the things I forgot to mention it, Don Quixote was all about, a guy who thought he was a knight in a world where there's no more knights at all. And I thought that was a direct reference to the character of Robert McCall being a knight in this world, doing the chivalrous, the good thing, and helping people in need, helping the damsel in distress, but not just damsels. I mean, he helped everybody because he had the power to do it, like you said.
And I think the storytelling in both parts, with both books, did a great job, because the first one pointed to him being who he is. He said, the fish is the fish and the old man's the old man. He's a fisherman. He's going to be who he is. And that's what Robert McCall did in the end. He realizes who he is. And the second one, he also realizes that he is a knight in a world where there's no more knights. So yeah, I think both books, I mean, they could have picked something like anyways, whatever book you could think of, whatever old fiction book. I can't think of any off the top of my head because I'm not a big reader. But all that to say, they could have picked any books, but they picked those 2 for specific reasons.
Totally specific. All right. Well, I think this one was your choice. So for next week's movie, it's going to be my choice. And I am so looking forward to this. I've heard so many good things. We are going to watch Mission Impossible Fallout next week.
Yeah, so I haven't heard anything. You've already heard the good things about it?
I've heard really good things about it. I don't know squat about what's going to happen in the movie. Haven't seen a single preview. Haven't listened to any kind of like. If you go, you can go on YouTube and see spoiler-free reviews. I don't watch those at all. All I've done is seen the movie poster. So I know that there's a new movie coming out. But one of my favorite YouTube video essayists, I guess they're called, is a guy named Patrick Willems, and he did about an 8-minute video on who is Ethan Hunt. And I'm not going to talk about it here. We could talk about it. We could talk about it next week when we discuss the movie. But Dusty, I'll send you the link via email, and actually I'll put him in the show notes for today's episode as well. If anybody wants to watch that before they watch the movie, it's just a really good look into what he thinks or who he thinks Ethan Hunt's character is through the prior 5 movies. He doesn't say anything about this next movie. It's kind of like it was a good refresher on me of who Ethan Hunt is, because I'm not going to go back and watch all 5 Mission Impossibles up to this one, but I recommend it, Dusty, and I'll give you the link for who is Ethan Hunt video essay.
That's great. I'm going to have to check that out. And I just like James Bond movies, I get excited when I see, when I hear the song, but then I also see like, hey, there's a new James Bond coming out, and you see either iconic with James Bond, like the bullseye or the barrel looking at James Bond, or in Mission Impossible, dun, 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 dun. It's just really gets my blood pumping. I'm like, oh, dude, I can't wait. This is cool. So yeah, I have thumbs up. Hopefully it's going to be great. I really like Tom Cruise. He's been a good actor, one of my favorites for a long time. Ups and downs with his career, being personality and all that sort of stuff. But all that to say, he's enjoyable to watch. He's a great actor.
Without a doubt, he is. So that's the movie for next week, Mission Impossible Fallout. So for the listeners, the show notes for this page is watchandlearnpodcast.com/equalizer. You can go there to see a recap of all the lessons learned, to watch the trailer, to see some also, shots from the movie that I'll put on there. And I'll put the link to this video essay called Who is Ethan Hunt? And I highly recommend you watch that before you watch the next movie, Fallout. So thanks so much for listening, everybody, and we will return next week with
Mission Impossible Fallout.